Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Wednesday. It is match day, of course, over here in Milan. Inter Milan versus Arsenal in the Champions League, kicking off a little bit later on today. I hope you're well. Hope the week's going well. It's been a lot of fun so far over here in Milan. Was at the press conference last night at San Siro, speaking with Mikel Arteta and Bukayo Saka. I didn't see too many Arsenal fans milling around in the short time that I was actually sort of wandering the streets. Myself and James from Gunner Blog, you know him as, after a press conference, we're having a little wander around, went and got something to eat, and didn't sort of bump into too many Arsenal fans around, but I'm expecting to see loads more today. I'm going to head over into the centre to try and soak up the atmosphere ahead of what is a big game. So we'll go over that in today's show. We'll look at what Mikel Arteta was saying yesterday's press conference, Bukayo Saka as well. We'll do predicted 11. Got plenty of questions and comments from you guys on that as well. Yeah, it was an interesting one. I went to San Siro yesterday. Check out this picture I took. That was outside the San Siro yesterday. You could just about see it. It was so foggy. And this was right about sort of match time tonight. It was around sort of 7, 8 o'clock. It was so foggy. I got out of the taxi. I've never been to San Siro before. And I got a taxi through the city to get there. And when I got dropped off, I was like, well, where is it, mate? And he was like, it's right there. And I genuinely couldn't see it, even though it was about 100 meters away from me. I couldn't see it until you got to about this close. And suddenly those famous stairwells started to loom into view. It was so foggy. I'm told that the fog doesn't really penetrate down to pitch side, which will be pretty handy because I was thinking for a time yesterday, if the fog's as bad as this tonight, this game could be under threat. But apparently, I'm assured it won't be under threat. And even if it is as foggy as it was again tonight, then it shouldn't have an impact on the game. Thankful, because it'd be a long trip to come over here just for the game to get postponed for fog. But look, plenty to talk about other than the weather, of course. But I am British, so I've got to talk about the weather. It was an interesting press conference last night. Obviously, Edu's departure is dominating proceedings at the moment when it comes to Arsenal, and it was a big talking point. We're only allowed 2 questions at the start of the press conference because Arsenal were very keen for the press conference, especially for the Italian media hall over here, for it to be about the match. So they only gave us, the English press pack, 2 questions to start with on Edu. And this is what Mikel had to say about it, if you haven't heard already. He said, everything happened very quickly. Obviously, I loved working with him. I really enjoyed being alongside him on this incredible journey from day one we've been together. First of all, I'm very grateful personally for everything he's done for me and for the amazing work he's done for the football club. I think we both had this special chemistry working together. We both really enjoyed our roles. I'm very blessed. He's been part of my life in such a beautiful place that I am right now, managing this amazing club, and he's been a massive part of it. He's got an amazing opportunity now to do something else in a different role, and he believes it's the right professional move for him. We have to respect that from the bottom of my heart. Everybody really feels that we want the best for him. Again, all this talk about a rift and a falling out, as I said in yesterday's show, from what I was told, that is just completely and utterly not true. There hasn't been any rift. The relationship is still as strong as it was between Arteta and Edu, and certainly looking at Arteta and hearing Arteta's words yesterday, that's the feeling you got. 100% is what he's saying there is absolutely true. He was then asked, what's your message for Arsenal supporters? You might be feeling a little bit uneasy about, kind of what's going on after the defeats and now Edu leaving. Should they be worried? And he said, the plan and vision that starts with ownership is very clear and very ambitious. We are going to continue. We have a very strong leadership team with unbelievable know-how, real passion and great feeling for the football club. We are not going to stop where we are at the moment. Across the club, there is excitement, passion and understanding of where we want to take this, and this journey remains intact. That means opportunity for somebody else to come in to fill that role. There are people that Edu has brought as well alongside him on this journey, which is always very important. And we move on. We say thank you. We have to move on. And that is the reality of our industry. And he's right. And I'm trying to say that, it's obviously a blow. I think it's definitely a blow to Arteta because him and Edu have got such a good working relationship. So it is disappointing, no doubt about it, but it isn't by no means disastrous. It does present opportunity to bring someone in, as I've said, to freshen things up a little bit, to have another outlook at the very top of the club in the leadership group, in the football team. So, yeah, as I said, it is a bit worrying, but it is, as long as a good appointment is made and the right appointment is made, it could also be really beneficial to have a new, fresh outlook for the club. So that's what Mikel said about Edu in the 2 questions that we were allowed to ask him on it. Team news-wise for today, obviously really good news. If you went on YouTube, you can see the pictures of Martin Odegaard there returning to full training yesterday. It was a huge boost to see Martin Odegaard back. We were expecting it might happen. And it did. And it was great news to see him back. But also it was tempered by the fact that Declan Rice is now injured and is out. Now he's got a foot injury. And on the foot injury, Mikel said it was a knock. It's a problem with his foot. He wasn't comfortable with it at the moment, so he's not fit. Apparently, he couldn't get boots on. It was hurting, trying to put his boots on. So, yeah, that is a blow. It is disappointing for Arsenal, and for it's like 1 in, 1 out, isn't it? And it kind of just sums up the way this season has gone injuries wise. But on Martin, he said it's great to have Martin back. Obviously, he's trained with us for the first time, a full session. It felt good. It's a bit earlier than we expected, but we wanted to be with the team. We will decide tomorrow, which is now today, of course, whether we use him. But it's a big step that he's travelled with us, and he is part of the team. And added that Declan Rice will have to assess him towards the end of the week to see whether he can be fit for Chelsea or not. So that's sort of the mixed injury news when it comes to Arsenal ahead of tonight's game. 1 in, 1 out. Martin Odegaard potentially back. He's not going to start. There's no way Martin Odegaard starts this game, but he could potentially get 20 minutes or so at the end if he's feeling good enough. But no Declan Rice. There's going to be a bit of a rejig in terms of what happens in the midfield. On the game tonight and into Milan, Mikel said, I think they have a really clear idea and identity. And that for me is the biggest strength of Inter. And it's full credit to the manager. He has some very specific ideas, especially in ball possession, the way he moves the position of certain players to occupy different spaces. And this makes them very tricky and unpredictable. But to be fair, we face it in the Premier League a lot of tactical issues that we have to resolve. And hopefully we're going to do that as well. On the sort of whether there is increased pressure on Arsenal to win now, as we've seen in the fallout from the recent defeats. He said, look, my blood is pumping. This is a kind of game we all want to play, to come to Milan, to play Inter 2 years ago. They were in the final of the Champions League. They won the Scudetto last year. So to come here and show the team that we are right now and the ambition that we have, these are the games that we want to play. And that's for sure. And I certainly got that impression from Arteta in his press conference yesterday. A lot of it, I think, was about just trying to rally the troops a little bit almost and saying, look, it was like he was trying to put on a brave front, I think, after what's been a really difficult week, I think, on and off the field for Arsenal. I certainly got the impression that Arteta was very keen in front of the cameras yesterday to look upbeat and to feel confident. He just gave that air of him when he was speaking yesterday. We also had the chance to speak to Bukayo Saka, who, again, kind of similar to Mikel, I thought, was very much, he was trying to sort of use that unifying front that I was talking about in front of the cameras, and the way he was talking, he was very sort of forthright. He looked very focused. He talked very focused. He was asked about the recent defeats, and he says, look, for me, I always live by the quote, it's not what you see, it's what you believe. If you look at our squad, the quality we have, the players we have, and at the same time, we're only in November, so I don't think I've lost any belief. I don't think anyone will change it if I have to. So he was talking about, he was asking, do you still have belief you can go on and win this title and do great things this season, even after this poor run that you've been on? And yeah, I thought that quote was interesting. He said, I always live by the quote, it's not what you see, it's what you believe. And he said he's still not lost any belief. I asked him, actually, in his sort of role as captain that he's taken on in the last few weeks in the absence of Odegaard, I asked him, has he sort of felt the need since Newcastle and given everything that's gone on, including with Edu, to sort of get the group together as his role as kind of standing captain for now and speak to them and try and get everyone together. And he said, I would if I felt like I needed to, but I think it's important not to overreact as well. Obviously, there's lots of noise around the club. We've lost top 2 games, we've drawn another one, but at the same time, it's important to stay calm. Doing all of these things can create calm, but they can also create a bit more panic and chaos. And I don't think we need that right now. I'm just doing my best to help the team in any way that I can. If I needed to do that, I would do it for sure. I thought he spoke really well, Bukayo Saka, as he always does. Yesterday, it was good. If you go over to Haters YouTube, you can see the full press conference with Bukayo Saka. I think it's well worth watching if you've got 11 or 12 minutes spare at some point today. I thought he spoke very, very well. Right, predicted 11 time. This is what I'm going for. Obviously, there's no Declan Rice, so he's got to do something a bit different. At Newcastle, we had Thomas Partey playing at right back. Obviously, I think Thomas Partey now, you would think, certainly comes in and plays central midfield. Ben White has been training. He trained yesterday, took full part in the session. So you would expect Ben White is going to be fit enough to start this game. So he'll come in at right back, and that will allow Thomas Partey to move into midfield. Now, this is my predicted 11. This isn't necessarily what I would go for tonight. So I'm going for David Raya in goal. Obviously, I think he'll go with a back 4 of White, Saliba, Gabriel and Timber. I think that just picks itself now if Ben White is 100% fit. I'm going Marino and Partey in midfield, and then Saka, Martinelli, Havertz and Trossard. So I'm sticking with the front 4 that he played. I think that's what he's probably going to do. there is a chance he might rejig things. I think I would probably shake things up a little bit. I have to say, I think I would maybe drop Havertz a little bit deeper and I'd bring Gabriel Jesus in and play Jesus up front with Havertz behind alongside Thomas Partey potentially, and drop Trossard. I think I'd try and change the forward line a little bit because I'm just not sure it's working. And I think that Trossard-Havertz relationship that worked so well in the early days after Odegaard's injury seems to have run its course a little bit. Maybe it'll be a bit different in the Champions League against European opposition rather than Premier League opposition. So, but I would maybe bring Gabriel Jesus and find a way for him to play this game. But I think Mikel will probably stick with Trossard and Havertz as a front two, and he'll go with a midfield pairing of Marino and Thomas Partey. So that's my predicted 11. I've got a couple here from you guys in terms of what you would do. Aurora Freak says with Declan out, I think we will play this team: Raya, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Timber, Partey, Marino, Saka, Havertz, Trossard, and Jesus. So no Martinelli in that team. He said Ben White can't make it. I would go for Kivior as left back and Timber as right back. Not quite sure that this game would be good for Zinni, maybe 60 plus minutes when we look to score. Lando said his starting 11 would be Raya, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Kivior, Partey, Jorginho, Saka, Jesus, Havertz, and Sterling. Nostradamus says Raya in goal, White, Saliba, Gabriel, and Timber, Partey, Marino, Saka, Jesus, Kai, and Martinelli. So Saka playing in the 10 role there for Nostradamus. And John says Inter Milan away is going to be a difficult game for us, so we need to start every first choice player that's available. Can we afford to lose this game? Possibly, but Arteta will want to win it ahead of another difficult clash away to Chelsea. I see Rice didn't travel, but Odegaard and White did. So I'd go Raya, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Timber, Partey, Odegaard, Marino, Saka, Havertz, Martinelli, if they are all fit. So there's some of your 11s that you would go for tonight. Yeah, I think that the thing on Gabriel Jesus, so I know Jesus obviously hasn't had a great season. He's just scored the one goal against Preston, but you know, when you just feel sometimes something needs to happen, there needs to be a little bit of a shake-up just to try and get people going again. Maybe put a rocket up someone, and maybe that's what Trossard needs right now. We know when Trossard's angry, he tends to play pretty well. Maybe you take Trossard out of the team, that would give him the spark to really try and find his form again. And maybe you just need to try something like that. We know Jesus has been very good in the Champions League when he's played for Arsenal at times as well. So maybe that is what you do need to do. Bring in Jesus. You can play Havertz a little bit deeper in midfield, maybe alongside Partey, Marino. I don't know, but I would just shake things up a little bit in that front line because it has been so misfiring in the last couple of games and certainly was against Newcastle. Couple here on Edu's departure. Cunningham said Arsenal should go for Francis Kagawa as our former chief scout from Galatasaray. Look at the impact he's had there since becoming their sporting director. He'll be a perfect fit for a job that really should have been his in the first place. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I've been thinking about Francis. You know, I know Francis, and I spoke to him, did a big interview with him after he left Arsenal. The thing is, though, with that, and he is a very good sporting director. He is, got immense contacts around world football and knows Arsenal inside out. Was there for so long under Arsene Wenger. But the thing was, Arsenal did fire him. Basically, they booted him out and they ripped up his whole scouting network that he'd spent so long building. I can't imagine he would be that keen to go back into a club that did that to him. And I haven't spoken to him for a while, I have to admit, but I just can't see a return for him. I think the way his departure was handled, I don't see a way back at Arsenal for Francis. But he's also doing a really good deal. He went off, did a really good job for Chile, for their national team, and now he's over in Turkey with Galatasaray doing a good job for them. So he's certainly got so many contacts across the world. And he's a very respected figure, but I can't really see a return from him. Jack there says, love to see Rosicky back in some form. He's a legend. Bergkamp would be great too. Not sure how well he could do, but he's a legend at the club, knows the score, and had contacts in some great places and is invincible still. Dennis Bergkamp wouldn't be able to do that sort of job. You can't just because you're an invincible and you're a club legend. Bergkamp, when he left football, he went into youth coaching. That was his sort of passion, was working with the younger players at Ajax and things like that. He's not a sporting director. He hasn't got any experience doing that. You couldn't just place him in charge. So as romantic as it kind of would be almost to bring Dennis back into a role like that and have him doing it, it's just not going to happen. Also need to fly around the world a lot as a sporting director. I'm not sure Dennis would be too keen on doing that, obviously. Aaron Hez Charles, unrelated to Arsenal, Gyokores' performance against City was monstrous. We should have signed him last summer, even if we had to pay the release clause. Surely top clubs would have decided to sign him after the top performance yesterday. Yeah, Gyokores continues his remarkable goal scoring form for Sporting. Absolutely destroyed Manchester City. 3 defeats in a row for Manchester City. It's not just Arsenal going through a tough time at the moment. Manchester City as well. 3 defeats in a row in 3 separate competitions. Sporting battered them in the second half yesterday. As I said, I was out with James Gunnerblog yesterday for dinner, and we're looking at scores, and it was 1-0 at that point to Manchester City. I think when we got there, sort of looked back, and it was 3-1 Sporting. And then obviously Gyokores completed his hat-trick, scored 2 penalties, went through 1-on-1, scored that goal, missed another 1-on-1 in that game. City's defending was bizarre from what I saw, certainly in the highlights. Those 2 1-on-1s that Gyokores had in the first half, to allow that to happen once was bad enough, but to allow it to happen twice was just crazy defending. Such a high line for Manchester City. And yeah, an amazing send-off for Amorim in his last home game as Sporting boss before he takes over as Man United, absolutely battering Manchester City. Interesting to see how they respond. Next, got a tricky game away at Brighton at the weekend, Manchester City. So all is not well there. Injuries certainly hitting them, just like they are hitting Arsenal this season. And yeah, on his performance, look, I think we all know he's an incredibly impressive striker. His goal scoring record, his Sporting is amazing. And if clubs were a little bit wary, because maybe we've seen a lot of players do well in Portugal and then struggle to maintain that sort of form when they come to England or another top league. If he's doing it in the Champions League, which he is, you can't do much more than score a hat-trick against Manchester City, even if 2 of them were penalties. It's certainly going to make a lot of clubs stand up and take notice. That release clause is still there. Of course, I do fully expect he will go somewhere come the end of the season. I think he'll stay there for the season, but he'll go somewhere. Would that be Arsenal? I don't know. It's impossible to predict right now. He's a player they like. We know that they've watched him. They chose not to go for him in the summer. Maybe they'll choose to go for him this coming summer. We'll have to wait and see. But I think there's certainly going to be a lot of competition for him. And you think Manchester United are going to be pretty well placed as well, given who their manager is going to be. Right, that's it from me, everyone. Thank you very much for your time. As always, I really do appreciate it. I'll be heading to San Siro a little bit later on. If you're over here in Italy and you're out and about in Milan today and you spot me, come over and say hello. I hope you enjoy the game later. If you're watching it around the world, I hope you enjoy it as well. I'll be back in the morning before I fly home to do a sort of the full reaction video as well. You want to get involved in that, come back after the game today. Give me your thoughts on it under this video. I will try and do a ratings video after the game as well tonight. If I don't manage to do that, if I run out of time, then I will, of course, do my ratings in my reaction video in the morning. Until then, have a great day, everyone. Enjoy the game later. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.